Hey, you guys, everyone, can you guys hear me here? Hello,
Loud and
hello.
clear, loud and clear.
Thank you so much. We're waiting for speakers to join us here. I think we're waiting for 3 more. But while we do, we can actually kind of kick off so we kind of like also finish right on time. And if you guys can, would appreciate if you can retweet this so we can get more people to join in and join this discussion. All right, guys, Thursday. I am exhausted. It's not even Friday yet. I hope you guys feel the same. Although the market is kind of picking up a little bit. Now we are finally back into 60K levels for BTC. I really wish nobody had to get shot because of it, but it did, and it's really quite sad that it's because of that. But also some other things that are also picking up. But I hope you guys have a great Thursday so far. I see a lot of familiar faces here as well. So before we kick this off, just a couple of reminders. Again, no shilling, and of course, keep your intros to less than 30 seconds if you can. And with that said, let's start. Merlin, you can go ahead. And nice seeing you back here.
Hey, good evening, guys. It's a pleasure to be back. I hope you're all having a good week. You got Archie, one of the co-founders here at Merlin Starter. We're a premium launchpad on Merlin Chain, obviously Bitcoin Layer 2. We're accelerated incubation program and basically specializing in assisting teams to come into the Bitcoin ecosystem and launch their tokens and projects. So, yes, stoked to obviously be here. Hello to all the panelists and looking forward to tonight's panel.
How is the Bitcoin ecosystem doing nowadays, by the way, before I proceed on?
It's definitely growing. Obviously the Bitcoin price, is definitely helping, bring some attraction over to the ecosystem. BRC20 tokens, obviously runes, the amount of encryptions have died down a little bit in recent times, but I think it's only a matter of time before it circles back, to that attention, and growth economy. So yeah, exciting times, I think.
All right, looking forward to that. Because I still, for currently, I am still very much invested into ERC20 tokens. So hopefully, there is some movement there happening within this current cycle. And the next one again is my dear friend from Devomon. Welcome back.
Hey, always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us on RC. Again, some familiar faces, familiar spaces. I'm Liz, co-founder and managing partner at Devamon. Blockchain's premier anime game, or brand, should I say. Lots of things going on within our ecosystem, games, mangas, Telegram games, tab games, comics, so on and so forth. Hit some really great milestones this week, and looking forward to conversing further here and watching the market pick up, and wearing my shorts in the sunny hot UK at the minute.
All right, thank you for that intro. And I am not wearing a short, unfortunately, but I am also sadly burning here in Cologne, which is not normal actually. And yeah, thank you for that intro. And then I want to see Mark D Games to talk next. Go ahead.
GM, how's everybody doing? I see some familiar faces. What's up, Merlin? So Mark D Games here, also known as King Snooch. Here for this conversation. This is going to be great. I see some familiar faces down in the listeners as well, and I see my man Devamon over here. Excited for this, and let's get after it.
Thank you so much. I'm also excited because I was just talking about this with Investor Brand, which is the next person to give an intro. And go ahead before we go into the discussion.
So thanks for having me again. I do ecosystem growth for XP.NETWORK. XP.NETWORK does AI and data automation on deep-end infrastructure. So basically, if you're looking for fast, reliable alternative to IPFS, then we provide the infrastructure for that. Currently, we have our first data cluster live. So if people want to try it out and see how it stacks up, please do. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much for the intro. And next one would be Ruby. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Ruby here, co-founder and lead engineer of XP.NETWORK. Excited to talk. I see some familiar faces as well. The weather here is very, very hot in Israel. As you guys know, I'm actually sitting here in my underpants. Excited to talk, guys.
Thank you so much. And for those who give us an insight of which pants they're wearing, happy thoughts for you guys. Next would be Jim. And would also like to know which pants you're wearing since everyone already provided theirs. Let's keep it coming.
Hopefully everyone is wearing pants. That's all I can say. If you're not wearing pants, please don't share.
Hey
Wear
guys,
pants.
Akil aside from Chip Exchange. We are building the first EVM compatible DEX encrypted on 10 blockchain. We are right now running on testnet and looking to plan to launch mainnet in Q4. And right now the plan is to roll out the DEX first, and we also have privacy launchpad as well, which allows projects to raise funds and also for users to participate without revealing their transactions. So yeah, we currently running a lot of campaigns and looking forward to have discussion on the pre-token markets.
Thank you so much, Chimp. And Stefan, last but not least for so far.
Thank you, thank you. This is the first time that I've ever heard somebody say sunny UK. Okay. But, sending regards to my fellow underpants man, I'm in my underpants as well. That's pretty good. So I'm building Armor Wallet, but, everyone knows about wallets, right? Everybody uses MetaMask on the daily. So what makes Armor special? The cool thing is the AI part. It's an AI-powered wallet, and you can think of it as ChatGPT meets MetaMask meets Unibot. So you can talk to Armor with prompts, and it can make transactions for you, bridges for you, trade for you, instead of you clicking buttons. So let me give you an example. You can write to Armor, hey, take these two Ethereum that I have on base and DCA into Solana on the Solana network for the next 20 days, only if the price doesn't go up by 6%, and it will go out and do it. But it can also do way more than that because it covers trading, research, portfolio with AI agents. So it's like a crypto assistant on steroids. And yeah, it's going to be live in September, and that's it.
Amazing. And thanks for that intro as well. And thank you all, my pants wearing friends, for being here and for all the guests that's tuning in. This is kind of like a new topic for me as well. And again, before we start everything, just a reminder that all of these discussions here are not financial advice. These are just mere opinions, and yeah, don't chase us for it. So yeah, I guess my first kind of like curiosity here, guys, is has anybody on this panel has ever perhaps delved or done a pre-market token sale themselves? And if you do, can you give us kind of like an insight of, or like an explanation exactly of how it works behind the scenes or anything like that? Stefan, go ahead. Very, very early to raise your hand.
Very early because I did it in one of the previous projects that I worked for. So I was the head of growth at Battle for Geostone, and this was back in 2022. It's a Web3 game similar to Dota 2 and League of Legends. So we did do a pre-token market. We did a token launch, right? We're talking about token launches before having any utility of the token, right? Just make sure I understand it completely.
Yeah, it's pretty much before it goes available for public to buy, before there's any attached price to it. That's pretty much pre-token sale.
Yeah, we did that, and we also did an IDO, and the result was pretty okay because we combined it pretty nicely. So this is what we did. So every investor who wanted to buy into the IDO also had to buy in with $2 into liquidity. So if you wanted to buy in $1 of BFG, you had to put in $3, right? So with a $400,000 IDO, we raised 1.2 million, which was to keep the price stable and to make sure investors don't dump. And that worked for a while, but we had no sinks in the game, and that's why the token plummeted and crumbled, and now they're trying to relaunch the token. So from my end, a negative experience. Interested to see what other people did.
But that's in the point of view from the token owner itself, right?
Nope,
So,
just for everyone.
okay, like interested also to know what's the experience of everyone. So basically from my end, my biggest curiosity in here is that what's the level of risk you're kind of like putting in, right? When you have let's say you don't know how it's going to be trading publicly, you don't know probably what's happening behind the scenes as well. So how do you bet what price you're gonna be getting this for? Investor Brand, go ahead.
Yeah, I think right now the pre-market trading seeing it like on OKX and so forth regarding airdrops. I think that is very interesting because usually there is no, it's that simple. Most of the time with those big airdrops, there is no IDO where people can buy into. There's not through a launchpad that you can get into it. So you don't have that reference price. Of course, like early investors that were in those early rounds, they have a price reference point. But usually if there was no IDO or pre-sale in the traditional sense, then the normal investor doesn't have a price reference, right? So in that case, what I do is, of course, just look at the tokenomics and then see if there is any similar product in the market, see what market cap they have, see how many tokens are released on day one, and then, you can just make a guesstimate and hope that you're right, and then you start trading based on those assumptions. That's how I would do it.
Chimp Exchange, do you have something to say about that?
Yeah, so I think that really depends upon how the project itself has planned to launch. If they're conducting a seed private sale for investors, I think for public and end users, they should really note it down if they have a good market maker on board. I think if you want, you can really ask the projects in the Discord on the chat, and what kind of exchanges are they listing on. If they have a good tier exchange as well as good market makers, I think they have a strategy that they will be able to manage the price and how much seed liquidity they're going to be putting in when they launch the token, if it's going to be launching on DEXs. So that really investors really made a point that how much tokens are releasing on the first day of launch. That compared with how much liquidity and tier one exchange if they have, that can really absorb the sell pressure, and also it will translate to the performance of token through the utility of the token. If they have a utility already figured out before the launch of the token, I think it will also support the price in the future months as well. But yeah, it really depends upon what strategy, go-to-market strategy the project has.
So you pretty much kind of like assess these things as you would like for ICOs, right?
Correct.
So is it more like for people who are, let's say, who wasn't able to get it on IDO and then you want to still get it to it? For example, there's a lot of ways for you to be able to get a token. Like for example, KOL, there's KOL round, there's, investor round and all that stuff. And this is also kind of another way for you to get a token, right? Investor Bren, you're raising your hand.
Yeah. I was actually indeed wondering the same. I see a perfect use case for airdrops because there is, like I said before, there is no quote unquote normal way to get in there. You just have to do the interactions, hope you get the airdrop, and usually for a long time, people are teased that there might be an airdrop, but you're not really certain yet. And especially in the beginning, you will not be getting into any of those very early rounds anyway. So there is no other way for the public to get those tokens pre-market, except of course if you do this pre-market trading, which we're now seeing more and more, which is something I didn't see with Arbitrum, Optimism, and so forth. So there I see a use case, but from that perspective, what I would do is, one, try to get some information on what the seed pricing was, and if that's impossible, which is probably usually very difficult if you're not connected, then I would do my little back of the envelope calculation of what I think is a good price, and then I would deduct a very fair amount from that price, and if I see that pre-market I can get it at that price, then it would make sense. Otherwise, I would personally not risk it. And I would still find it useful as a price discovery tool if I'm qualified for the airdrop. Then it's just nice to look at and see what the market thinks it will be worth. And then I just add a little factor because so far it's always less than the price that I've seen in pre-market, which is, to my opinion, also very interesting because that would mean that I would not be willing to trade at such high prices, and then the market apparently confirms because it launches a bit lower. So yeah, interesting tool for price discovery in my opinion.
Mark, go ahead. And thanks, Investor Brent.
So I look at it like this. I tend to look at everything from a gamer's perspective. And one of the pre-token things that I see a lot of times and see being successful is when you have a game that's going to launch. There's two options, right? You can hire a company that will test your game, and you can spend a decent amount of money on these testers, we'll call them, right? You could send them a bunch of money. They test the game, they stress test it, they give you feedback. That's option A. Option B is you do a play to airdrop campaign where you let the gamers know this is not a finished product. This is a test. And instead of spending money on these testers, right? This company that's a tester that's going to give you feedback from, maybe 20 or 40 people, you let the actual gamers get in there, test the game. You pay them in tokens that they can then use in the game later on. So you're kind of investing in them in a sense, but you're spending your money on actual gamers who will go in there, test the game before everything's launched, and give good feedback to the actual developers to how the game will cater to actual gamers better. So you're getting very good feedback from actual gamers. You're paying them in tokens before the tokens actually launched, which then I would say maybe 60% of them will continue to use those tokens in the game if there's a utility to them, and maybe like the others will dump it and maybe move on to the next project or whatever. But I think that's a good utility for taking your pre-tokens before you do your TGE and getting them in the hands of the actual gamers that are going to be playing the game that you're about to launch.
But looking at that scenario, Mark. So in my head, like if I'm a gamer and then I'm going to play your game, and then the only incentive I'm going to be getting is a token that I may or may not know the price. Do you think that's worth it to play that game? It's probably, I don't know. You don't know it's going to be a good
here's
game.
the thing.
It's worth your time, right?
You're looking at it from a business perspective and a trader's perspective where money is the most important thing. Gamers, you got to take a step back and look at it from the mind of a gamer. Gamers for the longest time since I was little playing an Atari at my grandparents' house, gamers always care about getting entertainment value out of it. Gamers, as far back as I can remember, are willing to pay money to get entertainment value out of it. Most gamers aren't looking to make money playing games. I can tell you that right now. Most gamers that I know, and I know quite a few, are willing to spend money for the entertainment of playing a good game. They're not interested in making the money. Those are the gamers that we need to get into Web3 that are willing to spend money if it's a good game, and they're not interested in making money. Then you have the people who are interested in making money. They can make money because there's people injecting money into the game for the entertainment value. You got to have both things in order to make things move right.
Yeah, I agree. But in a sense, the whole point of the free market is really more on the profit side, right? So it's I would say
profit for who? Profit for the dev team?
Profit for both, right? If you're going to be investing money which includes money whenever you get a token for a pre-sale, you need to also know that money goes somewhere, or if it's going to get anything like any other investment or any trades that you do execute on a daily basis, right? So this is kind of like, there's something that I'm confused about, because
look at it this way from the developer side of it. If they're going to spend, let's say, $40,000 on a team that's going to come and test it and give feedback, instead of spending $40,000 that is out of your pocket as a developer and you've lost that money, what if you give it to the people who are going to put it back into your system? Then instead of spending the money, you've kind of kept it in-house. It's not really adding profit to you, but it's costing you less.
Okay, I understand on the user on the owner of the token perspective, but let's see some insights from Chimp. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try to cover Mark's perspective as well because I agree on some of the points that he mentioned about the gamers. But on the pre-token side, I would say if let's say if you're launching a game, I would like to take an example of Pixels here. Pixels recently launched a game, and I have been playing their game since 1.5 year. 1.5 year they launched their game, and they invested in the gamers mainly and launched a token within the game. So people could play the game and earn the tokens. And by looking at the traction within the game, how many if even if they stop the token at one point, they stopped the token minting through the game, and even then the players were still playing the game. So the end goal of the game was met. So if we compare right now, there are so many projects launching Web3 games and such, but there is no word like Web3 game. It's just game. Web3 game are just a gimmick word that has been added. And for that matter, if you compare, if the project has a traction, let's say it can be game or it can be NFT or it can be anything. If they have the actual users that they were targeting, in the end you can measure if it will have a proper buy pressure in the at the launch of TGE, which Pixels had. They had a lot of gamers supporting the game, which meant there will be a need for the token and buy pressure for the token. In the end, even if you buy it in a public sale or let's say a private sale as an investor, it will give you good benefits and rewards.
Interesting. Investor Bren, anything to follow up on that?
Yeah, not specifically on that point. I do feel indeed there is some misalignment in, I guess, in the interest, because the team, of course, wants to have a price. If they're selling, they'll want to get as much as they can for the token. But if I would be buying pre-market, then I still hope to get a deal compared to when it goes live. So I still hope to get a lower price than when the token goes live, so I can capitalize on the difference, of course. Because why else would I buy pre-market? So I would think there is some misalignment in the interest and in that sense.
Yeah, because I think in terms of someone like me, like a buyer, and I do get Mark's point, is like, for example, I think the most ones that I know is Portal. It's a token, and if you bought that on pre-sale, you're probably gonna get like 10x profits upon launch, right? Or if you farmed it, then it's free, like that. For me, what I want to understand is, as a project, I know you guys have your own tokens. Is it worth it for you guys to kind of also do a pre-token market launch or pre-token market sale? And would you dive into it? Is it worth, investing time into it? And what are your pros and cons into doing that as a project, as as someone who owns their tokens or launched their own token? So that's what I've heard. I think Divamon, you have a token. Merlin, perhaps I also want to understand on your point of view, and Chimp Exchange also, as you are also launching on the DEX. You can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, sorry, everyone stuck their hand up. Am I okay to speak? Or
Go ahead.
perfect, thank you, folks. So, from my perspective, I think what the previous speaker investor said, it makes sense. The alignments may be misaligned, but there's also opportunity on both sides. From a project perspective, the thing with these token sales, they bring capital in, absolutely, for the project. They also bring the potential to X your capital for investors. But also what it does do is give you exposure from a marketing perspective. If you have that, if you have the right platform, helping you with your pre-token, your pre-token market. So it's got pros and cons. I'm going to sit on the fence on this one, just because I can see benefits, but I can also see disadvantages, because it can ultimately lead to a price discovery, which is fine, but it also may lead to other negative outcomes too. And so I can see benefits and drawbacks either way. But as a project, I could definitely see a potential for upside on it from our side anyway.
Thank you so much, Divamon. Merlin, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's obviously some really amazing points that have been had so far. So from a tokenomics perspective, obviously from a marketing, from a social growth perspective, very, very useful. Obviously, strategies can be invoked and community growth, obviously developed through the sale of the tokens. But most importantly, like obviously when you're going through those various investment rounds as well, to include KOL rounds, strategic rounds, etc., to bring them on that journey, we have to remember that obviously from a strategy perspective, people want to get in at the ground floor as cheaper valuations as possible, right? And then it's obviously leading towards that TGE. The mechanisms in which the businesses have post TGE, obviously to support their price structures, utility, etc. Is it staking mechanisms? Is it social farming? Is it, like some of the examples that Mark was giving as well, were on point. So it's there is definitely not a one trick fits all. There's definitely multiple pillars that obviously go into it, from a, cost based analysis, opportunity cost, etc. But, you're not going to have how do I say it? It's up to the project to basically work out their best strategy and how to support their price mechanism, post TG. That's incredibly important. Like if one of the more recent, success stories that I've witnessed in the market to date, was actually the Mochaverse, token generation event that actually happened. Extremely strong, community, post TG, they obviously brought out obviously incentives, staking mechanisms, etc., and kept riding that wave and momentum upwards. So, that's it's all very good, strong token market metrics leading into obviously TG, etc., and carried that on through. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting to watch.
Interesting. Thank you, Merlin and Stefan. Go ahead.
It wasn't Merlin first. So, pros and cons of a pre-token market. I'm going to speak from personal experience. So, for example, with Armor, we're going to be doing a pre-sale. And the pros here are everybody who joins in is going to get the token at a cheaper price than at TG. For the project itself, it's good because you're getting money beforehand. And here's the best thing about pre-token markets. So I had my own startup and we wanted to go the traditional route. No tokens. We wanted to raise. We wanted to go through VCs. We wanted to go through investors. But when you're, no, this is an interesting relationship between founders and investors and VCs. When you're trying to get them, right? When you're trying to find an investor, they don't want you. It's like talking to girls. When you show that you're needy, they never want you. But now that we're bootstrapping and now that we are doing everything ourselves and that we're doing a community raise and all those sorts of things, now VCs and investors want to join in, but we don't let them. It's like giving the cold shoulder to a girl again. Then she wants you more. So those are the pros. The pros. The cons are you don't know what's going to happen after TGE if you don't have a sync. So if you are a project, it's super important to have a sync. For games, it's easy. You can spend, tokens on NFTs. You can spend tokens on just getting more progress in the game, pay to win things like microtransactions, all those sorts of things. But for dApps and other types of projects, the syncs need to be a bit different. And that's the main point. If you don't have a sync, your token is going to get absolutely wrecked.
And I absolutely agree on that as well. So, I've been in the market for quite a while now, and I think the biggest issue I see with all of this, private sale, pre-sales, IDO, and all that stuff is that sometimes this also creates a precedent of, a token having high chances of the token owners to actually dump these tokens. And I don't know if this pre-sales or if there's a lock-in period on these ones as well. But I think for me, it just also gives, a chance for others to kind of like, get your token at a slow price. And at the moment the TGE, they just dump it into the market. And I swear, as someone who's watched lots of token launches, that's going to be the most horrible thing you can probably do for your token, because there's no such thing as a retoken launch, guys. You can only launch your token once. You can change the name of your token and launch another token. But that initial launch, it's pretty important, guys. So for you to be able to hold up price, and for you to be able to make sure that that your token is in it for the long run, and you're not just like one other pump and dump scheme scams out there who's giving the tokens to everyone that get their money out and then kaboosh by investors. It's important, I think. So in this sense, right, you as a project, do you still think that this kind of method is safe for you to try on, or do you think it's too risky, or do you think this is more kind of a way for scammers to kind of like get the money in from the crypto and then also get out? Is it too big of a risk for us? I think that's kind of like the questions we should be questioning ourselves right now. Mark, I see you raising your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the big difficulty here is when you have these pre-token launches, right? And you got all the KOL rounds and the pre-sales and everything. 90% of those people that are doing that are interested in making a profit. That is their main goal. It's no different than, going and watching Shark Tank. The people that are going in to invest on the success of something, right? They're investing in the hopes that it's successful and it's going to go up in value, and then they can extract some of that value and make a profit. That is their goal, right? The people who are investing in these pre-sales have the main goal of making a profit from it. The way that it profits is if the players in the game, now mind you, I'm thinking, Web3 gaming, not so much like NFT projects. So just to make that clear, when the game actually launches, right, the way it's successful is if the gamers want to use the tokens. If you don't have gamers who want to use the tokens and are willing to buy the tokens, and that's happening, those investors have nothing to go on. They're just, it's going to flop. So if everything is focused and you have all these investors that are coming in with the sole mindset of, I'm going to dump the tokens as soon as it launches, like you're saying, there's no long-term sustainability. But if you get those tokens in the hands of actual gamers who are more likely to be invested in the long-term aspect of it and are more likely to use the tokens in-game, get hooked on a game, and then want to buy more tokens, and then tell their friends about it who then want to buy tokens, and then it spiderwebs from there, that's where your success comes from. And that's where everybody starts to make money.
I love your insights, Mark. I always appreciate you guys, but I always appreciate your insights, by the way, and coming from a gaming perspective. So it's more, everyone understands it. So thank you for that. Investor Brand, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I think, and I hope I'm right in that sense, that there is a difference between just the pre-sale of the token and the pre-sale market, where you indeed have people trading the token without knowing the open market price. Well, with a regular pre-sale token, you set a pre-sale price, and then people just have to wait until it goes live, and then they can sell on the open market. So in this case, you already have people who have committed to getting the token and who have done an investment before they have the token, that are already trading it, right? So I think that's an important nuance. So in that sense, I really wonder, when projects choose to do that, what the main reason is. I assume, again, price discovery, because that's the only thing I find very useful. Because, yeah, but then what I don't know and what I wonder, so I hope maybe if somebody has that experience, what happens if a certain price comes out, right? Will that influence the price at TGE? Because as soon as you launch at a certain price. So I'm wondering if they really use it for that reason or for other reasons. So meaning that you do the pre-market, you see that the market is leaning towards a certain price, and you use that price reference to then adjust your day one pricing on the real market. So I wonder if that's the main purpose or if there's something else.
I don't think a project like has that huge capacity to kind of like adjust the their final token price or anything like that. But based on what I've read so far, the recent pre-token launches or the market token sales has not been profitable for most people, and a part of that is basically, if you look at the market right now, I would say, even if I kind of like assess projects, it's really hard to kind of like dissect a legitimate community nowadays versus, those who just like fake bots and everything. And then, you say also like a comment from Chimp saying that, you also need to assess, like your audience, who's your market, and how vibrant your community is, your market makers and all that stuff. But nowadays it's also a lot of manipulation happening out there, right? So the concern and the biggest issue that I have with the P2P markets, and I'm not saying that I hate it, because yeah, if I can earn money, I will not saying no to earning money anytime soon. But it's just that for me, I think it's unnecessary. Honestly, we already have a lot of ways for these projects to be able to like gain a significant investment shares, or initial money for their projects. Why do you need to start free markets? And based on what I've read as well, lots of exchanges are also diving into this as well, because they get profit from it as well, right? So yeah, Trip Exchange. If you can enlighten me, that would be great.
Yeah, so on the point that you mentioned again is the communities that these days is really difficult to find if it's an organic community or most of them have just joined for the final airdrop. So I think 2 years back, or maybe say when Arbitrum did their token launch and Optimism did it, at that point of time, airdrop hype was just getting started, and their airdrop and the communities were the ones who were actually using Arbitrum, and they already had a $1.5 billion of TVL at that point of time. And even I got the airdrop of Arbitrum at that point of time. And the reason I got is not because I was farming the airdrop, but I was actually using Arbitrum. And now these days, it's all just about airdrop. We also run an airdrop for our Chimp token, which is called Chimp Drop. But the idea was we would do a fixed number of users. So finding it, if they have an actual community, is by actually maybe going through their on-chain transactions, and if they have the on-chain data validity that can be validated, then it would mean that okay, they have a demand for the token, and pre-token market makes sense. Then it will also give the projects and the investors in the beginning an idea of where the token is going, and they need to push it more, or they need to get the buy pressure for the TG launch, so that end user and investor, like public investors, can make profit out of it. But that most of these days, it's all just airdrop communities, and which is farming.
So you think it makes sense to combine both an airdrop, an ICO, and then also a pre-market token sale
Yeah, I think
before your launch?
yeah, it makes sense if you have the right market strategy. If you're just doing it because okay, it brings the hype, or maybe it will convert to the token price getting appreciated, I don't think that works. You just need to, as a user, you need to find the balance, which are after doing the pre-market tokens, which are doing more marketing. Let's say project is pushing more out now, they're understanding the community and the price where it's going, they need to apply more buy pressure because it is not up to the standards that they were expecting. So I think it is beneficial for both projects. But in the end, I guess as an investor, I would say, if I'm going to invest in a project and I see that trading in the pre-token markets, then I would say I would like to see their data being converted on chain. If let's say if we have a DEX, as an investor, I would like them to know that okay, we are doing a good number amount of trading being done in the testnet period, and we have a steady growth. Then it will convert to the real actual value when the TG comes. If that's not growing, I don't think there will be enough buy pressure, and there's a scope for making profit in the end goal.
I love your insights, Chimp, and that absolutely makes sense. Merlin, you were raising your hand a while ago.
Yeah, I was just going to basically come at it from the fundamental, trader's perspective, in the fact that let's say there's a scenario here, obviously, where you discover a project, you do your due diligence on the fundamentals, you really believe in the longevity of the project, but you haven't obviously to date been able to get in on the airdrops, the KOL rounds, strategic rounds, etc. But then through the obviously token markets, you might be able to set what you think is a reasonable discounted value, in the hope that some of these people will cheat and sell their tokens, obviously, who obviously, basically received it through an airdrop, etc. So, providing that early opportunity, as it hits the market, and essentially, fingers crossed, you get what you perceive as a better entry. Obviously, there's a lot more factors that go into it, but it's just from a trader's perspective, I guess, that I was coming from here.
Thank you so much, Investor Brand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wonder how much this is a better alternative than, for example, a Dutch auction, where you also have the price discovery. Because I think there are a lot of different models out there, and I think last cycle some projects played around with different models. So yeah, I wonder how it stacks up. If the goal of the project is price discovery, maybe there is even a better model. Of course, I understand for the centralized exchanges, this is much more fun because they get a whole bunch of fees, of course, coming in, and new clients coming in. If they're the place to be to get one of those hot tokens or hot projects before the market. So maybe that's the main driver of why we're seeing this type of product being pushed, especially now with so many big airdrops.
Yeah, I totally kind of like agree on that, but also on Merlin, right? When you said like as an investor point of view, like it's a good way for you to actually earn money, and I totally get that part. Like I would definitely jump on an idea of like kind of getting like a token like on a discount before it actually goes on market, which is kind of like what happens when you say you watch something on your TV, and let's say a blow dryer, and then you say, look, during old times before it goes to market, you kind of pre-order it at a lower pricing range, and that's how I kind of look at these things. And you probably, but at this the only thing is that you don't know the price in these free markets, right? So you also need as a project to be able to find a way to minimize the possible market how do you say manipulation or dump of your token, right? So where is that line? How do you assess that, right? Chimp said a while ago, if you want to do the airdrop, you want to do the free market, you want to do that, you're giving your tokens to so many hands at this time. So how do you assess how much you give? How many do you limit number of tokens? To what exposure are you willing to give in before I can say, okay, I look at this token, I can trust it, even if I get this at pre-market, I can still pretty much assess that I'm not going to lose money on these things. Like, how do you assess that as a project? Chimp, you can go ahead.
You're talking about from an investor point of view as an end user, or from a project's perspective?
A project's perspective, please.
From a project's perspective, as a project, let's say if we are launching a token, based on the tokenomics, you have to finalize how much is going to be released on the first day, let's say TGE, and what it will result to, how much sell pressure it will result to. And for that, you have to apply the similar amount of buy pressure. It's a simple game of maths. Buy pressure, sell pressure. If buy pressure is more, the price will appreciate. So as a project, if let's say you are giving 5% of your supply, in our case, which is the same, 5% is we are going to be giving as an airdrop, but you can limit that. You can give it in vestings. Also, you can apply the buy pressure through exchange listings, for as also in liquidity, how much liquidity is going to be there, and which market makers are going to be using. So that will result to, let's say, if there is 1 million of sell pressure, you have to have a strategy that brings in more users at TGE, doing a good amount of marketing, plus this buy pressure from exchanges, listing as liquidity, and market maker combined. So that if you're bringing 3 to 4 million of buy pressure, it will result in a good price appreciation, and also your project is healthy and it will have a steady price discovery as well. But you will have to have this strategy planned for next, let's say, 4, 5, 6 months, so that your utility comes in place before the sell pressure starts coming back.
I love your insights, and thank you for that, Investor Bren. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was indeed thinking about exactly the same thing. You know how many tokens will be released on the market. You know, you can probably look at previous projects and see how many people that bought pre-market, what type of investor it is. Are those the ones that will quickly flip at a moment's notice? Then you can calculate that in your strategy as well. And then you just decide how much liquidity you want to put in the pre-market, how much liquidity you want to put on day one, and then indeed based on previous behavior, you can make a good guesstimate, I think, of what to expect and how big your risk is of the token dumping. Of course, you never have all the answers, and you hope for the best. But I think there are some steps you can take by making proper tokenomics. I mean, we all know enough projects with bad tokenomics and how devastating that can be for a project. I mean, even a big part of optimistic people, they believe in a project, they're still driven by price. If on day one the whole damn thing tanks, then the community will become pessimistic, and then it's an uphill battle. Even if people don't intend to sell, you want to have a positive atmosphere, especially on day one. And then, I guess that brings me to the next point that I'm wondering. I guess it's a good way to get early liquidity if you do pre-market sales for the project, because if you have to sell when the project when the token launches, then I guess you will be the one influencing the price if you start selling. So in that sense, I guess it makes more sense to offer a bunch of tokens pre-market and let the pre-market take that liquidity and deal with it without influencing the day one price. So I guess that would make sense.
Yeah, totally online with you on that as well. Yeah, I think personally, for me as a project, I probably won't dive into it. I think it's unnecessary in my opinion. But as an investor, I would probably try it just for the whole point of being able to get kind of like a token at a discount. But however, I also need to keep in mind that the recent pre-token market sales has not been that great. So this is a risk that we all be willing to take. And with the last few minutes on the clock, I think I want to ask each of one of you guys on your final thoughts, and then if you have any other comments on it, would love to hear it. And basically, would like to know if you would personally try to invest in pre-token market sales, or if not. That's it. Stefan, you can go ahead first.
Great space, guys. I just have to tell you, it was a great space. Loved hearing all of your takes, but I arrived at my training session, so I will not be able to hear the rest of the conversation and all of your other takes. I mean, the end of thoughts. So I'll go back to the space, re-listen, and thank you very much for hosting me. And I hope to be back here again and talk to these lovely, smart people in the near future. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much, Stefan, for hopping in. And if you guys have any other thoughts, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, Investor Bren, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just start it off. So from my experience, I will probably not join into the pre-market because I prefer to trade on decentralized exchanges opposed to centralized exchanges. So that's point one. And second point is, from the few pre-market tokens that I did keep an eye on, which were a few airdrops. I think I looked at CK and then another one. And every time I saw prices that were way higher than my own estimate of what the price would be at launch, and they were more in the upper wishful thinking range. So I really, really wonder who the people are that are pre-trading right now, because
I think Investor Bren, you
my
are being cut
estimation.
off.
Oh yeah, for that reason, I'm probably not going to do it.
Okay. we fast tracked you on the last there, but yeah, we heard everything. Mark, you can go ahead next.
Yeah. I'll kind of give my 2 cents from the gamer's perspective, right? And some people may think this is a wrong perspective, but this is my perspective, right? If I find a project that I want to get in early, I'm going to look at it like this. I have the opportunity to buy something that I'm going to use in the game at a cheaper price than everybody else. And what I mean by that is I've been playing games for a long, long time, and I've spent a stupid amount of money on games. If I can get something in the game at a cheaper price, I'm happy, right? So if I was to get into any kind of pre-sale, I would look at it more as I'm saving money rather than looking at it as an opportunity to make money. Because from a gamer's perspective, I'm going to end up spending money on the game. If I can get it at a cheaper price at a pre-sale, that's a win for me. Again, this is from a gamer's perspective, not a trader or an investor's perspective. So just think about that, right? If you have gamers who are real gamers and they're willing to spend money on an entertaining game, give them the opportunity to buy in early at a cheaper price than when the game launches. And that money and those tokens are going to end up in the ecosystem, as opposed to investors who are just looking to make a profit and are going to dump it and move on. Think about that.
Amazing insight as always, Mark. And last words, Investor Brent?
Yeah, I just want to note that we're talking about pre-token markets and not pre-sale. So you're not guaranteed that you're buying in at a specific price that is cheaper. So you don't know what the price will be. So that's the issue right now. That's the pre-token market. So important nuance, I think.
Yeah, that is also like it's any trade that you do, it's always a risk of buying it and then it becomes lower later on. So kind of like the points up there. But anyway, guys, I am capping up this one. I just want to say thank you for those listeners today. And first, for our amazing guests, I would like you to give them some love, some follows, some shares, some likes if you can. I try this Merlin starter over here, and then Diva One, of course, from this my friend, and then Mark D Games, of course, who is from Late Dark Times, Investor Brand from Seer Network, Ruby Ellison from XP.NETWORK, Chimp Exchange, and then Stefan, who already left us at Armor, which is from Armor Wallet. Thank you guys for joining us and tuning in today. Unfortunately, we don't have a space next week because I do need my well-deserved rest for that. So, but thank you so much for joining in today, and to see you again very soon, guys. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Cheers.
Enjoy
Cheers.
next week. Thank you,
Thanks,
RC.
guys.